WPG.com.
Fox News Radio, I'm Dave Anthony. Pope Francis made waves last week letting priests forgive women for the sin of abortion. Now, he's reforming the way the Catholic Church annuls marriages, speeding and simplifying the process necessary for Catholics to remarry in the Church. The Pope would let bishops determine when a fundamental flaw can make a marriage invalid. The Kentucky County Clerk who cites her religious beliefs not letting gay couples get married woke up in jail a fifth day in a row, but Kim Davis's lawyers keep trying to free her. Fox News Radio's Tanya J. Powers has more live.
Her attorneys want Democratic Governor Steve Beshears to accommodate Davis' religious conviction and not force her to grant licenses to gay couples. They're also asking the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals to allow her to remove her name and title from official marriage licenses, which she says would satisfy her conscience. This as GOP presidential candidate Mike Huckabee is expected to join protesters at a rally outside the jail where Rowan County Clerk Kim Davis is being held, and he plans a private meeting with her. Dave.
Tanya, Congress returns today from a long summer break. The Iran nuclear deal is a big issue. Lawmakers could vote to reject it, but President Obama has enough Democrats to sustain a veto. Upon further review, Hillary Clinton's server did have top-secret information on it. Fox News Radio's Rachel Sutherland, live in Washington.
Fox News has confirmed a second review turned up 2 messages that contain the government's highest level of intelligence classification, including one top-secret message with information about North Korea's nuclear program. Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign has disputed findings of the intelligence community's inspector general that the emails were born classified and suggested the messages had been overclassified. Clinton has claimed she neither sent nor received emails marked classified via her personal system while she was Secretary of State. Dave.
Rachel, a man accused of pushing his second wife off a cliff, killing her, goes on trial today in Denver. And prosecutors also plan to introduce evidence about Harold Henthorne's first wife's death, crushed as they changed a tire when the car slipped off a jack. Fox News Radio, fair and balanced.
What do Fortune 500 companies do when they need to find new workspace? They call Regis and 1-800-OFFICES. With Regis, you can easily expand today and get your people up and running tomorrow. With fully furnished, tech-powered co-working spaces, offices, and admin support, Regis manages the details so you can focus on your business. Short-term, long-term, all on your terms. Regis makes it easy and affordable. Call Regis now at 1-800-OFFICES and get a free office or meeting room for a day. Regis, here to help you grow.
Are you ready to take your diabetes management to the next level? Put the Contour Next meter to the test and challenge your meter. The Contour Next meter makes testing easy and highly accurate with close to lab level results. And J.D. Power ranked Bayer's portfolio of meters highest in customer satisfaction with blood glucose meters. So take the challenge. Go to ContourNextChallenge.com, get a free meter, and enter to win free test strips. Find Contour Next at your local Walgreens.
A forest fire continues to burn this morning in the Pine Barrens of Burlington County. It sparked up Monday in Woodland Township. Hundreds of acres have burned so far, and it's carrying smoke as far away as Ocean County. Tickets are going to be handed out for the Pope's visit to Philly starting at noontime today. There are only 10,000 available. They're on a first-come, first-served basis. They'll be distributed online, limited to 4 tickets apiece. The South Jersey region can expect some type of economic boost related to the Pope's visit. Joseph Simonetta of the New Jersey Hotel and Lodging Association says rooms are definitely booking fast, but there's still availability. It is going to cost you, though.
When an event like this happens, it's whatever the market will bear, but it is competitive.
Some restaurants in the area are telling staff not to take off during the weekend of the Pope's visit. Funeral services today in Long Branch for a family that was killed in a murder-suicide. 35-year-old Lyndon Beharry shot and killed his girlfriend and 2 young boys before setting fire to their home and shooting himself. Breaking news, weather, and traffic alerts on your cell phone. Text news to 89,000. This is the Town Square News Network.
Areas of patchy fog this morning. Then we'll see plenty of sunshine and hot temperatures once again. High temperatures mostly in the lower 90s today. It will be a bit cooler at the beach in the 80s. Mostly clear with patchy fog tonight. Lows only in the lower 70s. And increasing clouds tomorrow. Maybe a thunderstorm. Highs 85 to 90. Dream of a never-ending summer through Atlantic City International Airport. Fly Spirit Airlines to Myrtle Beach, your favorite Florida destinations. Connect to Mexico, the Caribbean, and Latin America. Book today at acairport.com. I'm meteorologist Dan Zarrow.
You're about to find out why the New Jersey Broadcasters Association is inducting Harry Hurley to its Hall of Fame. Live from the studios of Town Square Media in Northfield, it's Hurley in the Morning on WPG Talk Radio 1450 and WPG1450.com.
Hey, thanks very much, and welcome back to the program. The following program is paid for by Chuck Malamut, a financial advisor at Morgan Stanley. The information, views, and opinions expressed on this broadcast are those of Chuck Malamut and do not necessarily reflect those of Morgan Stanley or its affiliates. They are current as of the date of this broadcast and are subject to change without notice. Neither the information provided today nor any opinion expressed herein constitutes a solicitation for the purchase or sale of any security. This presentation is for informational purposes only. Morgan Stanley, Smith Barney, member SIPC. Chuck, good morning. Good morning, Chuck.
Good morning, Harry.
How you doing?
Good.
Chuck, I guess
we're on a budget for headsets today.
Oh, I'm glad you mentioned that, Chuck. You mean your headset's not out?
There's no headset here today, Harry.
Chuck, this is why, Chuck, because for your birthday, I have purchased for you the exact professional Sony radio broadcasting headset, the MDR coveted model that I have been wearing for the past 25 years. I've only had 2 pairs in 25 years. The current pair for the past 8 or a little more than 8 years. And the prior pair, which I still have in my home office, I have them almost like a trophy in my trophy case, I wore for over 17 years. And finally, one of the wires broke, and I said it was time to get a new headset. Chuck, if you would, you can open that. It's very easy. The backing just slides right out. If you would open that up and then just attach your plug into the headset, I will plug it into the board. And ladies and gentlemen, Chuck has, and what I want you to do is you keep that in your briefcase. And then every week you bring in your own headset, and I will plug it in for you. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the kind of friend that I am. Chuck has a tremendous headset. And give me the adapter that's in the thing. You'll see it in there. This is if we do a live remote. Sometimes you want the larger adapter, and sometimes you want the smaller one. Here we use the larger one. Chuck, if you'd put your headset on, and that's adjustable. And what I do is I set that, and I'll show you. It just opens on each side. And when you get that how you want it, you can make that a permanent setting. Put them on, Chuck. I'm going to plug you in. Chuck, your headset's on.
Good morning, Harry.
Happy birthday, Chuck.
Thank you, Harry. This is the birthday that never wants to quit.
I know. So. I know. I know how much your family loves you because I saw the kind of birthday that you had, and it was very, very special. Do you here's when they're brand new too, does it sound different than usual?
It resonates perfectly,
yes.
Harry. It's just awesome.
Because it's a professional broadcaster headset of the
you.
highest quality.
The wires aren't tangled on the bottom. This is great.
No.
So.
Congratulations on your headset.
Thank you. Can I go home and practice now in the evening?
You'll practice unplugging and plugging in, but I'm going to take a picture of you, Chuck, before we start the program in your new headset. Give me a smile.
Thank you, Harry.
And let me get the WPG logo in. Give me one more smile. Nope. Step over to your right. Yep. Right there. Come your head in a little bit. Bring your head in. There we go. I love it.
Nothing like live radio, huh, Harry?
So, Chuck, there you go. Now, you can get a little bag. That one didn't come with it. Used to come with the bag. A nice little bag that you can put them in, and then you keep them in your briefcase. Keep them out of the heat or the extreme cold.
I will do my best.
Okay, buddy. So now you can hear. Chuck was here, and he's looking at me, and I know he noticed it right when he walked in, but he didn't say anything. So we get ready to come on the air. He goes, "No headset?" So there you go.
Adding a fair amount of levity to a really, really challenging couple of weeks, that's for sure, Harry. But thank you very much for thinking of me on my 35th birthday.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Chuck, what's the first item on your agenda?
Well, Harry, I think as you mentioned earlier this morning, the markets, as we all were sleeping, got off to a very, very good start as a follow through to the what I'll call on Friday just a give up. It was a quiet day for sure. There were a lot of people away from the desks on vacation, and it seemed, that as we got into the beginning of the day on Friday, that markets, globally speaking, were pretty weak in anticipation of the non-farm payroll report. that was released at 8:30 on Friday. The report came. I know that we can banter back and forth about the number.
But we won't on this occasion, and I'll tell you why real quick. When it went from 5.3 to 5.1 and the markets really didn't like the actual job numbers, the markets got out of the business of even trusting that number, because obviously if you had a strong employment market and you were at nearly 100% employment, because when this was set up, there was a belief that you could never get any better than 5% unemployment, because 5% of the nation would either be injured, would be mentally unable to, or some other physical limitation, would be unable to work. So if this was truly a strong number, 5.1% unemployment would have resonated with a fabulous result on Wall Street. But Wall Street actually went by the tiny number of jobs that were actually created, and they didn't play the game of the stupid number that the government has been manipulating.
So yeah, Harry, the number came in at, it was mixed. I guess the best way, if we're going to describe it.
Was it 186,000 jobs, something like that?
The headline payroll was 173 in August, which was below expectations. There were when they reset. It's just amazing. You can reset, back to the prior several months, and those reset numbers were revised upwards by a combination of about 44,000 jobs, which put the net job number in line with all the consensus estimates. Unemployment, as you just mentioned, fell to 5.1%, though that decline was primarily due to labor force participation or lack thereof.
The lowest it's been since 1977.
So as a result of that, we didn't have strong payroll gains, and average hourly earnings, a measure what we look at as respect to job growth, also came in slightly above consensus expectations. So as we got into the morning on Friday, it was very weak to begin with, and then this report was certainly not helpful. Equities during the day continued selling off, and they were stuck in a pretty tight trading range. And then around, I'm going to say, Harry, about 3 o'clock or so, the market tried to stage a recovery, and it did so, and it did to the point. And please don't quote me on it, but I want to say at one point in time that the Dow was down maybe about 100 to 125, and then as you got to 4 o'clock, you had this sense that it was the weekend, it was a holiday. Long traders that are long did not want to go into the weekend with positions that were exposed, because you think about when the Chinese market was closed, for 2 days prior to our weekend, and then they would be open for 2 sessions prior to the opening of the U.S. equity markets today at 9:30. So understanding what happened on Friday, it's not, you don't like to see the averages move down, certainly, Harry, but you kind of expected it. And what a pleasant surprise this morning when we got up, we see that all the markets in Europe are higher. A little bit of a disconnect overseas. The Shanghai, which we've all talked about, which we cannot own. It's pretty much a closed market for Chinese citizens. That was the market, if you remember, Harry, that moved up and got to that bubble and then moved down, fairly quickly. So
why do you suppose? I mean, the day hasn't, happened yet, but why do you suppose we woke up this morning with what looks to be good news, when I think a lot of people thought, based on the end of last week, right before the holiday, that today would start off down? What happened?
Well, I think, Harry, I'm not going to. As you know, we don't like to talk about what happens on a day-to-day or an hour-to-hour basis within the equity markets. But I think what happened was yesterday, as we were sleeping, the Shanghai market at the end of the day, after the Nikkei, which was down, by the way, Harry, about 2.5%, the Shanghai market and the Hong Kong market both rallied as to the end of the day because of the thought process that the government would again try some intervention. That carried forward into the European markets, which right now are up anywhere from 1.5% to over 2%. And as we look at the Dow, Dow futures, S&P 500, and NASDAQ are all up roughly 1.5%. But I think if there's any lesson that your listeners need to take from this, Harry, is the fact that, we are in obviously very, very volatile times, and volatility takes a while to work through. If you take a look at the volatility index, the VIX as it's referred to, where it was on August 24th, when we had that just awful, 1,000-point down in a matter of seconds. And so volatility is beginning to subside somewhat, but it's going to take some time to work through the system. It doesn't, it doesn't happen overnight. And when you are listening to the professionals, a lot are still calling out for positive results in the S&P, the Dow, and the NASDAQ before year end. So you think about it, as going into today, the S&P year to date was down about almost 5.5%. The Dow Jones was down over 8%. Because you have a lot of multinationals in that Dow Jones number.
So you, as you would say, over the years we've been together, got a lot of work to do.
We do, and you're coming. We're getting into the third month of the third quarter. Again, all eyes are on the Fed. I know that I want to make sure I get this correct. You're forecasting that there will be no rate hike this year. Is that correct?
Well, I first said there will be no rate hike at the next meeting, and then I take it one meeting at a time. At the rate we're going, I think I do believe there will not be a rate increase, although if things get better, there might be one increase before the end of the year. But I definitely said there will not be an increase at the next meeting.
So, as we got into Friday, it seemed as if the markets were obviously weak in anticipation of that job market report, the non-farm payroll that we kind of chatted about. And it seems as there's right now, all eyes are certainly on the Fed. And equities extended their sell-off through the morning on Friday as basically because of that uncertainty about what the Fed's going to do. The U.S. Treasury rates that we follow, the short end, the front end of the curve, were higher, Harry, following the payroll report, but then they fell throughout the session. So I think when we look at the Fed, I'm going to say probably 2 weeks ago, everyone said the Fed is not going to make a move in September, and our folks at Morgan Stanley are still saying December. But Harry, I think that we need to get started. The economy here in the U.S.
When you say we need to get started, we need to get moving, or we need to start raising interest rates to get to a normal type of atmosphere. What do you mean by?
I think I think rates need to begin. You need to begin increasing interest rates.
Here's my problem, though. The Obama economy is not normal, and it's only been kept afloat by artificial, stimulation, if you will. So, would this administration's philosophy be strong enough to do what you're saying? Under normal circumstances, we would have had a robust recovery from a deep, great recession. The job market would have exploded. It would have been an amazing, unbridled time of expansion, but we didn't get any of that. We got either nothing or fractional type growth. I don't believe this 3.7, but that's still not good.
No, it's not good, Harry. And when we travel outside of this area, I think what we're seeing for the most part is growth, somewhat muted, not certainly robust as we've been accustomed to in prior years. But if the consumer can get on board here, and it looks as if from the reports we're seeing it's starting to happen with these lower oil prices at the pump for sure. I think that's what the Fed needs to see. They need to, you've seen pickup in housing.
I heard the oil prices are actually going to come down more before the end of the year.
I'm not going to make a prediction with oil because Harry, oil can move in a matter of 5 to 10%.
Well, you could have
in
a natural,
relatively short period
you
of
could
time.
have a natural disaster. You could have war. You could have any number of things. You could have ISIS, take out oil supply. You could have a lot of things happen. But what I've been hearing, and I'll just say what I've been hearing, that the expectation is for prices to come down even more.
Well, the price at the
pump. And that's at the pump I'm talking about.
The price at the pump, national average as of Friday was 2.51. And we look at that number where we were back in December. Believe it or not, Harry, that number, December of 2014, was actually 2.30. So, oil. I mean, the price at the pump has moved up. Has moved slightly. You're right. And anticipation it should be that with West Texas trading where it is right now, down over 50% from a year ago.
Hey, look, even my corner store that's always higher is at $2.11 right now for an unleaded regular gallon of gasoline, and I understand that there's some places in New Jersey under $2.
Yeah, Harry, and obviously Jersey's obviously different with the taxes. The taxation on gas versus where we are outside of the state. But I think that the trend, if flat, if not lower, prices are going to help the consumer. And the consumer has to be able to kind of, shrug off the fact that, maybe we need to spend a little bit here.
Brief time out. We're going to come right back. But we'll come back to that point. People are afraid to right now because they don't trust the economy. So all those billions of dollars that people are holding on to because they're not paying it out at the gas pump because the price has come down, normally that would lead to discretionary spending, but people are not to the extent that they normally would. And I know the reason why. We'll see what Chuck says when we come back. This is Chuck Malamut's weekly program. He is our official financial advisor. He is the leader of his group, the Malamut Group, at Morgan Stanley's Northfield office, 609-383-2010 for all of your financial planning needs. Turn to Chuck and tell him that I sent you early in the morning.
The pageantry, the excitement, and the shoes. WPG Talk Radio 1450 is celebrating the Miss America competition in the world's playground. And we invite you to tune in Saturday, September 12th at 5 as we broadcast the Show Us Your Shoes parade live from the Atlantic City Boardwalk at Trump Taj Mahal. We have your front row seat Saturday evening, September 12th at 5 on WPG Talk Radio 1450 and at WPG1450.com.
For more than 35 years in the Ducktown section of Atlantic City at the corner of Arctic and Georgia Avenues, Angeloni's 2 Restaurant and Lounge has featured the finest Italian-American cuisine in Atlantic City, preparing all meals to order for more than 50 years. Angeloni's is serving lunch Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m., and dinner is served 7 nights a week. Wonderful lunch and dinner specials are offered daily. To make a reservation for lunch or dinner, call 609-344-7875. Happy hours are available Monday through Friday from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. with reduced drink prices and delicious $5 appetizers. Thursday nights feature an Angeloni's 2 tradition. From 4 p.m. until closing, you can enjoy $5 Stoli martinis and complimentary meatballs. Hey, I'm jumping in on this because I was so busy with my pal Chuck and we were regaling over his brand new headset. This is already played once in the program, and we have upgraded it. That was just a last-time mistake, Alan, if you're listening. But here's the good news. You get a repeat right now because the exciting news is now that Labor Day has ended, Alan has gone back to the full 4 p.m. to 12 p.m. Mama Angeloni's. Here's all about it at Angeloni's 2 Restaurant and Lounge. At the corner of Arctic and Georgia Avenues in Atlantic City, Angeloni's 2 Restaurant and Lounge has been providing you with wonderful dining experience for the past 3.5 decades. Now owner Alan Angeloni is proud to introduce Mama Angeloni's Sunday Dinner. This is a fabulous $25 4-course dinner each Sunday from 4 to 11 p.m. You have 5 different appetizers to choose from: eggplant, mussels, red or white, long hot peppers and marinara sauce, fried calamari or roasted peppers with fresh mozzarella. You have 8 different entrees to choose from: veal parmesan, veal marsala, chicken parmesan, broiled flounder, flounder franchise, fettuccine alfredo, and eggplant lasagna vegetarian. You also have your choice of house salad or a cup of soup. Your server will coordinate your dessert with the daily choices. The $35 and $45 holiday packages and happy hours are still in effect. At Angeloni's 2 Restaurant and Lounge, call 609-344-7875 to reserve. So, Chuck, we regaled about your brand new commercial grade professional broadcaster's headset that's going to be in your briefcase forevermore. Exciting days, isn't it?
Can it be, like, in our world, Harry, considered investment grade?
Well, yeah, I would say definitely investment grade. You could get yourself a little mini briefcase for your headset and then put that into your big bag that's bigger than most attorney bags that you have. So, Chuck, when we were talking right before the break about what's happening right now, and we just can't, unfortunately, for over 7 years, we can't do what we've always done as a nation because our executive branch policies, I don't think, allow for it.
Well, Harry, the consumer, if you remember, during part of that 7-year run, the consumer did, in fact, spend and was part of that much-needed three-legged stool to stand up.
So you're saying during the last 7 years, consumers have robustly spent?
No, I didn't say consumers have spent, not robustly.
Yeah.
And I think now we're at or most recently we got to the point where consumers is a fair amount of contraction. And now we're at a point, it looks as if, from the reports that we're seeing, Harry, that the consumer is now starting to maybe embrace the economy to a certain degree. You think about it, as far as all the reporting that came, while it might seem dismal to a certain extent, if the consumer can get on board here, I think, Harry, that's going to certainly help the economy for sure. Hey,
Bill Malamut would be great to answer this question, but didn't the actions of the end of last week and going now into this week bring the cost down for purchasing a mortgage?
Absolutely. I mean, Harry, mortgage rates, the big fear is that if rates move higher, that mortgage rates will move higher. But I think where there is confusion, what the Fed will be addressing is really more on a short term, the overnight money, so to speak, which would help the savers. And you think about the savers have been penalized for the last 5 to 7 years with this, with the low or no interest rate policy. And what happened and has happened is the fact, when the savers need to generate income to maintain a lifestyle, it forces them out on the curve, so to speak, where they're buying assets that are not of the same quality, that are perhaps a little riskier than they would like to buy, because they need that income stream. And then when you have situations like we've had of late, then those riskier assets, even in the fixed income world, have a tendency to move in the wrong direction, move lower, versus your higher quality investments that generate less, if no income at all.
So it's a ripple effect. In some cases, it actually makes people do things they otherwise wouldn't do because of the present circumstances.
Oh, absolutely, Harry. And I think if you take a look at the market, it was a long time since we had a correction, and I know that there are a lot of anxious investors out there now, and I think that what you have to recognize, it's easy to Monday morning quarterback any situation, but if you take a look at what happened on August the 24th, when literally you're looking at the screen and you're going to be pre-market down 150 to 200, and in a matter of minutes, you're down 1,000.
It was incredible.
This is all driven not by institutional astute investors, Harry. This is not individual investors like us and your listeners. That's all computer driven. It's all machine driven activity. And it'd be nice if you could.
Well, then it was largely China driven.
If you could, well, yeah. But what happens is when the machines take over.
Oh yeah.
And
good luck with that.
And then you end up with situations like we had. So I think that what investors need to think about and listeners need to think about, Harry, look, August was obviously not a great month, and statements are out and people have online access, and you get to your account multiple times during the day if you want to.
That was the
look.
worst August basically in history.
It was, Harry, one of the worst ones that we've had in a very, very long time. And September traditionally is one of the worst months of the year in the equity market. So we did not get off to a good start for sure.
So now you're talking it's October and you're in the fourth quarter.
So now, I mean, for the week, for instance, last week the indices were down anywhere from 1% to 3%. As you mentioned before, you can recover that in a relatively short period of time. We could be up 2.5% today, as an example. We're up 1.5% going in. Now, the question is, can we hold it? People are now back from vacations, and they're going to really start to focus on what's important. And I think, obviously, I'm not going. I think the Chinese stock market is certainly different than the Chinese economy. The Chinese economy is slowing, but wouldn't it be nice, Harry? How satisfied would you be if you had 7% growth?
7% would be beautiful. It would be fantastic.
7% would be 7%. It would be wonderful.
Let's take a brief time out. It's only halftime. We're going to be right back. Chuck Malamut continues. One more power segment straight ahead, 31 minutes past the hour. This portion of our program brought to us in part by Dr. Alan Chenman and his Smile Center of Linwood, perfecting the art of beautiful smiles, cosmetic and restorative dentists, Dr. Alan Chenman and Dr. Henry Salama. They practice the full scope of general cosmetic and implant dentistry with expertise that ranges from porcelain veneers to dental implants, crowns, bridges, inlays, onlays. Dr. Chenman, not only is he amazing, but he can now correct a wide variety of the so-called permanent cosmetic dental problems. He can literally redesign your smile, and don't take my word for it. I'm a very satisfied client and good friend of Dr. Chenman's. I unconditionally recommend him. He is fantastic. Even people that have been just deathly afraid. It's a phobia, some people, not going to the dentist, which of course only makes matters worse when the pain becomes so great because you've let something go that could be handled so minimally if you stay on top of it. That's the key, is your regular visits with Dr. Chenman and Lisa twice a year, cleaning your teeth, and she inspects for any type of small cavities or things like that. And Dr. Chenman comes in while you're in with Lisa, and then that puts your game plan together if there's anything that you then need to follow up with Dr. Chenman. The office is located at 1999 New Road, Suite D in Linwood, 609-601-2199. General and cosmetic dentistry, perfecting the art of beautiful smiles, Dr. Alan Chenman, 609-601-2199 at 1999 New Road, Suite D in Linwood. Tell Dr. Chenman Hurley in the Morning sent you. The first step towards a beautiful, healthy smile is to schedule your appointment. Call Dr. Chenman scheduling coordinator Shannon at 609-601-2199. We'll be right back with Chuck Malamut, the official financial advisor to the Hurley in the Morning program. For all of your financial planning needs, turn to Chuck at 609-383-2010.
The death of a 14-year-old girl during a Memorial Day weekend sleepover is still a mystery this morning. Kara Lemanowitz was staying with her soccer teammates. It's believed she had an undiagnosed medical condition. Grief counselors are at Eastern High School this morning. You been to a concert lately? Some residents have stopped going because so many at these events insist on standing throughout the entire show, blocking the view of the people behind them. Rutgers sociology professor Deborah Carr says in some cases it's simply rude and belligerent, but also
I think there might be a little bit of reliving one's youth because we're seeing nostalgia bands, and part of nostalgia is trying to relive the way we were when we were 18 or 20 years old.
The standard dancers, though, could be considered by some as bullies. A New Jersey woman is suing Justin Bieber, claiming she was hurt at his 2013 concert in Philly. Sandy Ricketts says she tripped on electrical wires and broke her shoulder. Get breaking news, weather, and traffic alerts direct to your cell phone. Text news to 89,000. This is the Town Square News Network.
This is Harry Hurley for the Atlantic City Aquarium in historic Gardner's Basin, North New Hampshire Avenue in the world's famous playground. Here's our official spokesman for the Atlantic City Aquarium, Noah Hurley Baker. Take it away, Noah. Did you have a good time?
Yeah.
What did you do?
I feeded my sharks and I touched one and then I swam right across the aquarium. And then Granddad says, "Is it right now?" And Granddad says, "Yes." it swam right across my aquarium. And then I saw all the fish in the tanks, and I saw eels and seahorses and jellyfishes and Nemo and Dory and blowout fish, and I also colored.
The Atlantic City Aquarium in historic Gardner's Basin, North New Hampshire Avenue, in the world's famous playground.
Listen to WPG Talk Radio 1450 with Radio Pup, our free app that puts all your favorite talk shows right at your fingertips. Powered by Autolenders.com. Stay connected with the latest South Jersey news and weather information right from your iPhone or Droid. Radio Pup, powered by Autolenders.com. There's never been a better time to check out all of the low-mileage, one-owner certified cars at Autolenders. See their full selection at Autolenders.com or any of their 6 New Jersey locations.
Welcome back. This program is presented by Chuck Malamut Weekly, right here on Early in the Morning, WPG Talk Radio 1450. And outside of Chuck's weekly appearances here, reach out to him and his group at Morgan Stanley's Northfield office, 609-383-2010. That's 609-383-2010 for all of your financial planning needs. Think about this. At any mile marker along the way, it's never too late to begin. People are living longer, so you definitely want to have a financial management plan in place. Chuck can sit down with you and find out everything that you're looking to accomplish. If you have children, the best time to get started on that is even before they're born, but certainly right when they're born, you should say, hey, Chuck, here we go. In 18 years, what can you do for me? And then Chuck will put that plan together for you when you tell him what type of school are you looking for. They have great programs to forecast out how much things will cost. You don't know exactly, but there's, past this prologue, so you have some experience in terms of what you could expect down the road. And Chuck, it's very daunting if you wait until your child is 14 or 15 years old and wonder, oh my gosh, Sally Mae, or, government plus loans and parent plus loans and all these student loans that are choking. That's another topic, Chuck, we should do on your show is we talked about 15 years ago or more, the bubble with the tech, and it absolutely burst, that bubble. I believe we have a student loan catastrophe in our midst.
Harry, with the average college student not obtaining their full education in 4 years.
Yeah. Now it's the 5-year plan.
Now it's the 5-year plan. And we could have, we don't have a lot of time today, but we can certainly devote a lot of time to that subject.
You got to, but in short, sort of just a mini little tutorial on this. If somebody sat down with you and their child is days old or weeks old or not even a year old, and you say, hey, Chuck, 17 years from now, look, you have a great opportunity to put together a strategy and a business plan to accommodate that, correct?
Harry, yeah, either between, the inception several years ago of the 529 account, which can be set up for the child, where the growth in that account is tax-free as long as those assets are being used for higher education, room, tuition, books, board, for college. That's when a 529 works. In addition to the 529, you have your traditional, custodial accounts where you can manage those assets and, buy individual stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and the like. The growth will be taxable, but again, it's under the taxpayer ID number for the child, so it should be relatively muted taxes per se compared to the individual that might be setting up those accounts. But to answer your question, Harry, student debt is choking a lot of people, and that's, and when you look at housing today, this is pretty interesting because outside of this area, you're starting to see housing really pick up in a lot of parts of the country. And remember, several years ago, we talked about, the student graduating, moving back into the house, the parents' house, moving into the basement, getting married, having children. I think that the job market is getting, for that age group, is getting a little bit better than what we saw certainly in 2008 and 2009. And
Chuck, since it was your birthday, let me find another way to bring your birthday into this. When you graduated from the Cornell Hotel School of Management with your degree. You had pedigree, to begin with, and a lot of experience, in early years in hotel management and hospitality industry. You literally could write your ticket coming out of college, correct? Didn't you have many choices?
At that point in time, Harry, the average hotelier, so to speak, graduating from Cornell, and again, times have changed, but we were seeing on average anywhere from about 4 job offers.
So you got to pick. You looked at these 4 things, and it's like, which one do I want? Today, people go to all this school, 4 and 5 years. It's more like 5, as you say, and they don't even know if they can get a job coming out.
Harry, I think it all gets back to when you started today's discussion, and we talked about, for the most part, is this the new norm with what I'll describe as a muted growth?
New norm.
And
because they do terrible things, we have to come up with ways to figure out, is this the new norm? It's not the new norm. It's never been like this before, and I submit it doesn't have to be like this.
Well, the problem with the new norm, as we know it, if that is accepted practices, so to speak, with growth in the 2% range on average, and with this very, very low interest rate scenario that we've lived through for the last 5 years, it forces all of us, the senior citizens, the older generation, to continue to work, therefore taking positions away from the younger generations. Now, what you're seeing, and I was chatting with a very good friend of mine who I'll leave nameless because I don't want to, I don't want to discuss the details, but in the process of negotiating a contract, that what he believes to see happening with the group that he works with is that it's very, very evident that they're forcing out all of us, the older generation, because it's a lot more expensive for us to be on the payroll, so to speak, versus someone that's coming in newer and, quote, younger.
Isn't that sad? I mean, I understand it too. It's more expensive because an older person will use more health care, so that's more expensive. Typically, they would be paid more because they have all this experience, so you can bring somebody in at half or less. It's just sad that this is what it's coming to. I want to talk about China for a second. Is there any chance that China could be in the midst of what Japan, the lost decade?
I don't think it's a lost decade, Harry. I think it's more of a reset. And I think, unfortunately, because if you look at,
what caught up with them?
Well, you came
because they didn't report honestly to begin with. But what caught up with them that they're where they are now? I know they did devalued their currency. Then they got a lot of heat for that from the world. And so what did they do? Typically, in keeping with China,
they devalued
it again. What happened that they have been exposed?
Well, Harry, I don't want to say that been exposed. I mean,
I think that's what it is.
We've all we're somewhat suspicious with respect to what was reported and the way it was reported, and the fact that they really haven't. They don't have the same experience that we have as quote as our society, because they came out of communism and this is really and you think about if you've lived under a communist state for your lifetime, and now you have this independence, it's very challenging, and the way you manage your affairs and manage the country compared to what we've done here for the last several hundred years. So it's just different, Harry. And did they in fact report things that were somewhat misleading? I mean, we'll find that out as time goes by. But bottom line, I mean, it is the second largest economy in the world. Mm-hmm. And yes, a lot of what is happening now went from industrial spending as you built out these cities. And Harry, I don't know if you've seen these documentaries on the. I'm not sure exactly what they're called. They built multiple cities and with no residents.
Right.
With the fact and the thought that people would come there and live eventually. And so you've gone from that to now the consumer. And so the economy is now shifting, and I think that what the government there needs to recognize is the fact that they can't control. I mean, under a communist state, they could control everything. They can't do that anymore. So I think that's what one of their struggles at this point in time.
Did they also spend a lot in terms of military buildup and some things that they were doing and partnerships they've been doing with Russia and with others trying to, I think they also spent a little too much time, effort, and energy and resources on trying to undermine America.
I won't comment on that.
Okay. For our listeners, just as the layperson on the panel, I'm going to let that bake out there because I think that's a legitimate comment.
Okay.
How about we did touch on the Fed meeting, which will be Thursday, September 17th. Are we in agreement that the Fed will not change interest rates at this time? Or are we not?
Harry, I'm going to say about 2.5 weeks ago, I would say I agree with you wholeheartedly. There will be no hike in September.
You think there's a chance now?
I think there is I'm going to say, and again, this is just my opinion, there's a 25% probability that you get a move in September with a 75% chance you get it in December for sure. We need to get started, absolutely, to encourage saving, to a 25 basis point, a 50 basis point increase in short-term rates. It's already sort of baked into the cake as we see it.
You mentioned something last week or the week before that I'd never even considered before.
1/8 of a point.
An unconventional type of increase, smaller even than what
I think that's just to sort of get things going, but I think 1/8 is like sort of admitting defeat anyway. So I think you need to go. Your first move needs to be at 1/4. I don't see a lot of moves. I think, 1, 2, 3.
Okay, so you don't think once they start raising interest rates that this is going to go and go and go and go?
I don't think, Harry, because, look, you virtually have no inflation to speak of still.
And I also don't think we have the fundamentals to support it.
And I agree with you on that. So I think the Fed will make the move at some point in time, and then they'll sit back and say, okay, look at the reports to come in. And then they can make a decision, where do we go from there?
We're going to get to your calls right after the break. Chuck, closing comment, anything you want to share?
Well, Harry, look, it's great that we come in on a Tuesday. I said to my wife last night.
Doesn't it feel like Monday?
I said to Pam last night, I said, Pam, I just remembered I have to do Harry's show tomorrow.
Yeah, your show.
So anyway, what the pre-market looks good. Hopefully we can hold. Everybody's back to work. Third quarter earnings will start to come relatively soon. And, the question is this a corrective phase in a long-term secular bull market? And we believe it is. Versus, is this the beginning of a bear market? We don't think that's happening at this point in time.
Chuck, great to be with you. I'm going to unplug your new headset now
Harry,
so you can take it with you. In case you're just tuning in, as part of Chuck's birthday, which was Saturday, I bought Chuck a brand new headset that is his very own. It's the identical headset that I've been wearing for the past 25 years, and I took a picture of Chuck. Chuck, you look good in it.
Harry, thanks for having me.
Did it feel
good?
good?
It feels great.
Sounds good?
I think I'll go back to my office, put it on.
Yeah, put it on during the day. People knock on the door. What's Chuck doing? He's got his headset on. All right. This program, as you know, presented by Chuck Malamut, a financial advisor at Morgan Stanley. The information, views, and opinions expressed on this broadcast are those of Chuck and do not necessarily reflect those of Morgan Stanley or its affiliates. They are current as of the date of today's broadcast, subject to change without notice. Neither the information provided nor any opinion expressed herein constitutes a solicitation for the purchase or sale of any security. This presentation is for informational purposes only. Morgan Stanley Smith Barney, member SIPC. We'll be back, and your phone calls are next at 609-407-1450. Mayor Kane was unable to make the adjustment to Tuesday. It's business related. He just doesn't have the hour, so we will have wide open forum for the rest of this hour and all of next hour. Looking forward to it. I'm Hurley in the Morning, WPG. Talk Radio 1450, South Jersey's talk station.
Health Update with Robin Stoloff is brought to you by Atlantic Care. Healthcare you can believe in.
I'm Robin Stoloff for Health Update. As the school bells begin to ring and we slip away from lazy summer days to crisp autumn weather, it's a good time to refocus our efforts on a fall fitness program. Cooler temperatures are great for walking, hiking, and cycling. Discover park trails, kayak or canoe along a new waterway, or enjoy throwing a ball or a frisbee around on our much less crowded beaches. Fall is a great time to learn something new. Many classes at gyms and other facilities get started in the fall, so think outside the box. Try ballroom dancing, boxing, yoga, or a new workout class. When it comes to fitness, forget January. Think of September as the new year. I'm Robin Stoloff for Health Update.
Health Update with Robin Stoloff is brought to you by Atlantic Care. Healthcare you can believe in.
This is Harry Hurley, and I'm with the Mayor, Charles Kane, owner and operator of the Auto Plaza, Egg Harbor Township. Mayor, tell your listeners who are looking for a car, why should they choose the Auto Plaza?
Harry, it's our full-service department, selection, and hassle-free financing alternatives that have set us apart for over 17 years. Over the years, we've been the recipient of many sales and service awards, as well as receiving an A-plus rating with the Better Business Bureau. It's been a real honor for us. We are now serving a second generation of sales and service customers. Stop in today. You're going to love our staff and experience what makes us different.
For all of your automobile service parts and sales needs, call the Auto Plaza at 609-646-2447. That's 609-646-2447. And visit us on the World Wide Web at myautoplaza.com.
The Auto Plaza at English Creek. Roll with Mr. Tire.
Thank you and welcome back. 609-407-1450. Wide Open Forum begins right now. Welcome to the program. Good morning.
Good morning, Harry.
Yes, ma'am.
Something's been bothering me, if I may talk about it for a minute. Now, our people in high office, president, whatever, and down, are they ever tested? It seems to me that some might really be suffering from alcoholism or drug addiction.
Well, some have. We've had alcoholic presidents. I don't want to name them, but I can name one off the tip of my tongue. And we had drug addict presidents that were absolutely addicted to mind-altering drugs and things like that. Here's the reality. Because of the way our government, the constitutional representative republic that we operate under, we elect a president. And for 4 years, the only check and balance would be if the president committed a high crime or misdemeanor, and then through the articles of impeachment that are prescribed within the Constitution, a Congress, if they had the votes, and it would be extraordinary in these partisan times because you would need 2/3 of each, body in order to convict and to actually remove the president. So it would start in the House. Then there's a trial in the Senate, and almost 100% of the time, if you had an absolute criminal in the White House, nothing would happen anymore because the partisan people, just like these people voting for this Iran treaty, instead of Nancy Wasserman Schultz crying, "Oh, I'm so torn," vote against it. But they can't. So they vote against their own self-interests. So there is no sending the president to his shrink. It's either vote them out the next election, or if they do something bad enough, having a Congress, both houses, that would vote to remove the president. That's all we've got. Otherwise, they stay drunks and drug addicts and horrible doers, and they stay for their term.
Tested or physically examined?
No, there's nothing.
No,
this is not like, even like a judge that's federally appointed for life or for a long term. They can be brought up on impeachment charges and removed, and it happens rarely, but from time to time you see that happen. But there's no, think about it. Who would say it? What part of the legislative branch or the Supreme Court would say, hey, we think you're, Meshuggah, and you got to go see a shrink, and you're on counseling, every week for the rest of your term? It doesn't happen. They don't even have to be cleared. They could have stuff in their background that would not enable them to receive a security clearance. And do you know they have the highest security clearance, and their election gives them that? Presidents, I'm not saying that covertly Hoover and others may investigate presidents while they're in office, but there's nothing they have to be given the top security clearance. It just comes with the office. Whereas if they appoint someone, there's a background check. They interview your neighbors. They interview relatives. They interview employers. They go everywhere you've ever been. They look for things before you could receive any type of level of security clearance, let alone top-level security clearance. A president just achieves it. They get it by their election.
No, that has to be changed because what happened years ago could either be worse or it has gotten better, but that should not be.
Well, here's the thing, though. To change it, Lillian, you would have to do an amendment to the Constitution because there's nothing in it that gives anybody within the government of any other branch. There's 3 branches. The other 2 branches have no authority to say to a president, you're a nutbag and you need to go get a shrink in your life every day, or you have we suspect that you're a drunk, we suspect that you're a drug addict. There's nothing you can do except impeach.
No, that doesn't sound right because it looks to me, and because I have experienced this personally, their behavior changes. It could be years and years later. They could have drank or smoked weed or whatever they did when they were younger. But if this goes on later in life, it changes their whole brain chemistry.
I happen to agree with you. Look, we have a president now that was self-proclaimed. He's written about it in his books that probably Bill Ayers wrote under his byline. He was the head of the Choom Gang.
Something's very wrong, Harry, and it's got to be looked at more closely because they're in there making so-called big decisions, and if their brain is not, working properly, they could, and not intentionally either. This happens over a period of years.
Well, I agree with you. Every point you have made here today. The issue is the power of the presidency, and especially now that this president has turned it into the imperial presidency, there's no checks and balances to accomplish what you're looking for. It's not there. You could have the highest levels of the military, the CIA, the FBI, the Speaker of the House, all kinds of members of Congress, all 9 members of the Supreme Court. Everybody could know. 320 million Americans could know, and there's not a darn thing you can do other than impeach and convict and remove.
Well, what kind of proof? What do they have to do?
You would have to have the allegation, which would be the House, which would initiate the process. Then they would have to vote for the charges, the articles of impeachment, that we believe we have a president who is, mentally impaired or having substance abuse problems, and it's affecting the decisions, and it's put the country in grave danger with our enemies and so on and so forth. Then you send those charges to the Senate. They would then have a trial, and then they would vote, and you would need 2/3 of the Senate in order to convict. The House could do it on the majority, have the charges filed. The Senate would need 2/3 to convict. Supermajority.
All right, Harry, thank you. It's just been bothering me because I see so much bad behavior that it can't be possible that somebody in a higher position, any position, act the way they're acting.
Well, I see it a little bit differently. I don't think any of them are absolutely insane. They're very partisan, and they're stridently so. And then you get into this game of what I call cognitive dissonance, where all of their supporters, I guarantee you 3/4 of their supporters are not nearly as radical as they are, but they go along with all of it, hook, line, and sinker, because they'd rather have that radical of their own party's persuasion than take somebody from the other side.
So nobody is his own man, right?
It's a good question. That's not quite true. I think Donald Trump is his own man. I think Chris Christie is his own man. But nobody we have in there right now is their own man.
Okay.
Have a good day. Thank you. Music says we have to go. Here's the deal. I'm going to make a 1-hour contract with you. The phone lines are wide open because I wasn't sure whether Mayor Kane would be here or not. We've done no show prep for this hour. This hour will be what you decide it will be when you call 609-407-1450. 609-407-1450. How we do it around here? First one in, first one up. We don't screen the calls. We take your calls in the order that they come in. 609-407-1450. I'm Hurley in the morning. Station ID is right now, so I don't have to say the station. And your calls are next.
Michael Savage and the Savage Nation. Weeknights at 9. WPG Atlantic City and WPG1450.com.
Fox News Radio, I'm Dave Anthony. Will the road to the White House go through jail? 2 Republicans running for president planned today to visit the Kentucky county clerk still behind bars for refusing to let gay couples get married. Fox News Radio's Tanya J. Powers has more live.
Senator Ted Cruz says he wants to meet with Kim Davis during visiting hours at the jail today. It's a separate visit than the one GOP hopeful Mike Huckabee has planned. A third candidate, New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, also told Fox News,
"We've got to be